What you eat, but you are what you digest. Have you seen a lot of these people in their 80s or 90s or even the younger age, where whatever they eat just gets digested, it gets absorbed, and they have the energy, they're the perfect weight, they're luster on their skin, and even when they're in the 80s or 90s, they have this fire within themselves, the sharpness within their eyes and their mentality. So those are the people where their digestive fire has stayed on, where it's not gone down. Or we'll look at the different forms of Agni right now. There are 4 forms. So their digestive fire has kind of kept on, and it's breaking that food down and breaking those nutrients down properly and efficiently and getting absorbed. So looking at yesterday we looked at what is Agni, and today we're going to look at the different forms. There are 4 forms of Agni, of course. The first one is Sama. Sama, of course, basically is your ideal balanced Agni, where you have a campfire where it just all night long it's been going on and it's there. It doesn't come down or get too high, and you're feeding it fuel as such. You're basically feeding the ideal amount of wood and the amount of food, I guess, for our the digestive fire. So the goal should be is keeping that fire lit, keeping that fire going, or having that spark all the time. And the best ways, or the ideal scenario is where your fire is ideal, you digest your food properly, the nourishments, the organs get all the nourishments they need, and you have the energy, your energy is sustained, you're not just sluggish or lacking. I mean, it's very rare with all the foods that we have nowadays, all the processed stuff that we eat, and the stress that we go through, because the mind plays on your Agni also. If you are, which we'll look in the next forms, and the next one, of course, is Tikshna. We'll look at Tikshna. Tikshna is basically, in Hindi, or Tikha means spicy or hot or very fiery as such. So that's where your Agni is running at a really extremely high level. It's not consistent, but it's really just like, when you're revving the car and you're really pressing on that accelerator, how much can that car take at that speed, or at that thing is going to burn down. So just like when you have a cup of coffee and your adrenals give you that spike, and then all of a sudden you crash. So that's what's happening with your Agni, or your digestive fire, where it's really running very high peak. How long can it sustain? And most likely it will give up, or it will be dampened as such. Because Agni is modulated or controlled by the Pitta dosha, and fire and water are the elements of the Pitta dosha. So you see where the fireness is coming from. And when it's too fast and too high, you could have a lot of other issues that can come in. Hyperthyroid, your metabolism is running just too much. You could have loose stools, diarrhea, where nothing is really getting absorbed, it's just running through you. So having those symptoms, you can understand that your fiery or your digestion may be just too much peak, and you want to tone it down a little bit, which could be water, and we'll look at other things which will help. Also in the mind, when you're in an anger state, or when you're frustrated for a long period of time, or you're controlling, or you're very aggressive in your nature, that can also stimulate that fire within too much and for too long. And what happens to fire when it's really hot or really big? It starts burning. It starts taking over. It starts melting whatever's around. And that's what's going to happen in your gut. Symptoms like ulcers, heartburn, even skin irritation, anything that's coming up on the skin that's reddish is basically too much fire in the blood, or too much fire in the digestive juices. or too much fire in the brain where you're thinking excessively too much or you're stressed about things. And we all go through this acne, that comes out in the skin. And it could be just frustrations, or it could be just your desire to do something, or your commitment, and you're trying to compete in certain things. So the mind also plays a lot. And that's the tikshna. And that's where you should be avoiding, of course, spicy foods, because your fire is already burning. Sleepless nights. My mom has hyperthyroidism, where we also have it, where I can see that when I'm really perked up, energetic, or if I even have caffeine in the morning, I could see myself getting up middle of the night and just not able to sleep. So anxiety could be a cause of that. Then, of course, the other spectrum having of too high is too low, which is Manda Agni. And Manda Agni is basically having too low, meaning when you campfire, you're not feeding, you're overfeeding it basically. So if you're putting too much wood into that fire, it's going to cause or to dampen or to shut down. And this is where food, earth, where we're giving it too much earthy food. So your quantity of food that you're just giving it, it doesn't have the time, it doesn't get enough, the time frame to really break that nutrient down, and you're adding more to it, or you're eating too much quantity. So that's also a very bad state, where this can bring you different symptoms of weight gain, of course, depression, colds, flus, congestion, allergies. Your immune system is suppressed because the body is really just trying to digest that earth food. It really doesn't have time to take care of other things. And weight increase, of course. Could be constipation, where things are backed up because now there's too much food piled up on that. And if that continues, you could see people getting bloating, or people getting a lot of it's fat that's in the stomach area or in the waist area. And we all go through this, but there's always the amount of volume that everyone is doing and for how long. And this can cause a lot of these symptoms. So, we are only treating symptoms in these days, either naturally or by medicine or anything. We're not looking at where it really stems from and where it starts from. It all starts from the digestive fire, and it starts long before. It could be started when you were a teenager or when you were younger and you didn't take care of, and you just ate lavishly, which we all do, and at age, because we're able to burn it, our fire is very strong. But if we keep continuing that, that's where it takes a toll when we are in our 40s or 50s. And the fourth one is Vishma. Vishma is basically irregular Agni. It's neither low, or sometimes it's low, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's in the middle. So it's sporadic. It's up and down. You don't know when you're hungry. You don't know when you're not hungry. So you're basically eating when you're not supposed to be eating, or you're basically eating when the juices are not ready, so they're not digesting. And that's more associated with the Vata dosha, because Vata is the movement where it's made of space and air. So there's too much sporadic movement, just like air. And there's too much space, and that could cause a lot of bloating, gassiness, just puffiness. And you want to make sure. That's why it's important to eat at the right time, at the same time every day. It's important to sleep at the right time, same time every day, because the body gets used to, and the cells get used to a certain habit. And that's where they start working at that particular time when they know food is coming. And so it's very important to understand where Agni is your digestive fire. There are 4 forms, which is the digestive fire. It could be high, it could be low, it could be sporadic, but we want to be consistent. And the more, of course, it cannot be consistent forever. We want to maintain that consistency. And that's what we're going to look at tomorrow. See what are the herbs, what are the diet, what are the life changes we could do to manage all this. Think of the digestive fire having 3 factors: fuel, spark, and of course, wind. Because the fuel is, we need to feed the food, which is the kapha. We need the food for it to be sparked up, but we can't give it too much, because otherwise it'll suppress it. And then of course the spark, which comes from the pitta, we just need to give it the right spark. If we give it too much, then it could also go dampen. And then the last, of course, is wind, where we cannot have too much wind in there, too much vata, too much motion in our life, too much anxiety in the brain. where it can cause constipation and it can cause other issues. So I hope that was helpful, understanding the different forms of Agni. This is Cosmic Mike. Have a safe and happy Wednesday. See you tomorrow on Thursday. Bye.